Are you struggling for consistency in your sim racing? Does your iRating look like a roller coaster? If so, we have good news for you. The way to get more consistent is to first understand what you're doing differently than the professionals. And VRS is the answer. With our competitive subscription, you will have the telemetry, setups, tutorials, and everything else you need to fully analyze your driving. Our data packs and the ability to compare your driving with the best in the world will show you exactly where to adjust your inputs, change your driving line, and shave seconds off of your lap times. And our powerful and precise Direct Force Pro wheelbase and precision pedals are being used by some of the world's best drivers. All these champions agree that VRS hardware is not just the best on the market, it's also priced well below the competition. So if you're looking to upgrade to direct drive and the best pedals in sim racing, VRS is your answer. If you want to get better, get faster, and make it happen sooner rather than later, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people are switching to VRS. You'll be so glad that you did. Visit www.virtualracingschool.com and learn why the best use VRS.
After a Week 13 break, the Apex Racing League GT3 trophy returns for a dash to the championship close with just 3 rounds remaining in 3 weeks to complete the season. Welcome to Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick and I have back alongside me Ron Mons with Samudi Kume bringing you this stream on our YouTube channel. And Ron, there's been a few tweaks to the GT3s during week 13 for this 2023 season 4 of iRacing, but the biggest one by far has got to be the addition of a new car, the Ferrari 296, and I do think it is a wonderful addition both for our eyes and our ears.
Oh yeah, that car is absolutely fantastic. I was seeing that car do quite a few laps earlier this week in a completely different event, the Red Bull Ring, I think it was probably at Monday when I was watching that, and that car was just beautiful to listen to. Awesome sounding engine, beautiful looking race car, but one thing that I did notice with that car is it doesn't seem to cooperate with the curbs very well, so we might see that come into play a little bit in tonight's race.
We've got a couple of them out on track for tonight. One of them is currently on provisional pole, so we may well see a lot of the new 296 there on circuit tonight. And yeah, see if those weaknesses do rear their ugly head for this race. Well, we've got just 3 rounds to go, and this is the final double race meeting of the season. And here are how the points look. And this is with the drop scores as well. And Anthony Simarco has had poor rounds at 2 of the past 3 races. The double race meetings generally have been very poor for him so far this season. However, he has still got a 100-point lead near enough over Carl Winkler. Those two will clear the rest. There's Anders Mar, who's had a fantastic run of speed, however has had a fair few incidents. And in the Pro-Am Championship currently, it is looking good for Eric Rosseth, but still very much alive with Christopher Otterholt close behind him. His IGL Coatings teammate Alexander Scaret in a still contending 3rd position. And in the AMS run as well, it's also looking fairly competitive.
Yeah, David Vey, he's definitely been a standout star, but he's had some very difficult rounds. I remember Fuji early on in the season, he got involved in a lap 1 schism, and unfortunately for him, it played havoc to his race. So he's had some inconsistency that wasn't really his fault, but he's still at the top of the AM standings. Right behind him is Yannick Williams, only a few points behind, only 9 points separating the 2 drivers in AM, which I believe is the closest gap to any of the categories. So that's a very close championship fight. We'll have to keep our eyes on not just the AM fight, but the fights all around, because this championship has been absolutely absolutely exciting, and there's been many twists and turns as well.
And even in the teams championship as well could still change around. There's no drop scores in the teams, and so you can have big point swings. Remember, 2 drivers out of the 3 which are eligible to race, your 2 highest scoring drivers from each round contribute to your team standings. And so at the moment that gap is 160 points, but 170 points, apologies, I did do A-level maths. And it's that could very much come down quite quickly, because you can score as a team over 200 points in a round, so you can potentially close it in just one round potentially. Of course, Sim Racing, they currently at the top, and we are currently in our qualifying session, and I'm sure many of you are aware of how these qualifying sessions work. We've got 10 minutes for the AMs, then 10 minutes for the Pro-Ams, and then 12 minutes for the Pros, and we're just going into the Pro qualifying. You can see out of the AMs and the Pro-Ams, Eric Rosseth in that 296, performing very strongly.
Yeah, he did a fantastic job, and I also want to give a quick shout out to Gordon Haug, who's currently running in the 3rd position, put in a fantastic qualifying lap to be only about 3.5 tenths off of the pole of Rosseth, so that was a fantastic lap from him. Very close pack there up towards the top, but I think once these pro drivers get into it, I think it will be very interesting to see this man, Antonio Samarca, that you're seeing warm up his tires quite aggressively coming through the stadium section. He was the fastest in the practice session. We'll have to see if that pace converts into qualifying, but the man closest to him in the practice session is Marcus Beifeld, currently in P2, just barely off of Anders Meyer for that top spot in qualifying right now, but we still have very long to go. But I think going into this race, I think Marcus Beifeld might be one to look out for. He showed a lot of pace in the series, but he's also been very calm. He's been calm as a cucumber. He's been a very cool customer throughout this season, so we might see Marcus Beifeld maybe try and push for a win, or maybe he'll just try and keep it clean and smooth as always, but I think it'll be a fantastic fight up towards the front.
Yeah, Marcus, very much very good at keeping it clean, as we see Anders Meyer with the new paint. I'm a big fan of that new Racing Lab esports paint that he's got on his car. Quite a change of design actually for that team compared to what they had previously. Yeah, Meyer's going to be very dangerous, and of course the highest point scorer last time out, Anders Meyer. Unfortunately, I missed that last round at Phillip Island. I managed to catch a few moments of it, Ron, but yeah, it seemed very strong for Anders, and it seemed like a fairly close field out there when they got into the race.
Well, I'll tell you, I think the reason why the field was so close a few weeks ago in Phillip Island was just because there was a lot, and I mean a lot, of chaos. There was cars going off left, right, and center. There was probably a period where we had about 5 drivers go off in the span of about maybe 2 or 3 minutes, just because of how small that track is, really. It's not really a track that you see a lot of car racing on. Usually you just see it as around the MotoGP championship. But those GT3 cars were having a bit of an issue trying to negotiate that track 2 weeks ago, and it created a lot of chaos. And one of the drivers that was caught out by that chaos quite badly was Antonio Samarca, and one man that avoided the chaos like the plague was Carl Winkler, who now slaps into the 4th position. Samarca, we might see a more representative qualifying lap from him. You can see right now 25 seconds off, so that was definitely not legitimate, and there he goes, right up towards the front. So Antonio Samarca, after the very difficult round he had 2 weeks ago at Phillip Island, he is looking for redemption tonight.
Thomas Vangen also putting in his first representative lap of the session. Let's get him up there. It sure can. He's up on the front row to create a couple of tenths to a second off Samarca. He does look ominously quick. Has been a bit of a bipolar season for Samarca. He's been extremely strong at 5 of the rounds, but 2 of the rounds he's had an absolute mare. And so he doesn't really want too many more of them. He can maybe afford 1 more awful round, but a couple more awful rounds in the 3 rounds that we have remaining in this championship, and Carl Winkler will be getting close. And Winkler is actually quite unlucky with the drop scores. Just for reference, just how poorly Samarca has done it a couple of rounds. His worst score is a 54 pointer. Winkler's worst score is 102 points. Winkler's best score is 116, his worst score is 102. That is consistency if I've ever seen it. It's been an amazing season for Winkler. He really has maximised his total.
Yeah, Winkler has been extremely impressive to me. He hasn't gone out and just dominated races. He hasn't gone out and kicked faces in. But what he has done is bring that Mercedes home, usually in the top 10 or very close to it. And he's just put together a clean, quiet, and just, I won't call it simple, because in this series, nothing is for sure and everything is nothing is guaranteed in this series, so you can't really call it a simple day with these races, but Winkler has put together a fantastic season. It's been great to watch him just be clean, smooth, and really avoid any accidents or DNFs like the plague. He's just put together a calm, quiet season, and although he has gotten a few wins, which were, I wouldn't even say it was him just going out and kicking faces in to grab those wins. It was just picking up the pieces when his competitors fell out, and certainly 2 weeks ago he took a big bite out of that championship gap of Antonio Sammarco because he had a absolutely horrid round. He wrecked out of the lead in Heat 1 and then just had to claw through the field really desperately in Heat 2, so it cost him dearly 2 weeks ago. But now as we enter the final 3 races of the year, I'm sure this fight between Sammarco, who's gone out and kicked faces in, and Carl Winkler, who's just been a quiet and calm force, this will be a very intriguing battle to watch in the final 3 weeks.
Yeah, certainly hope that it gets close between the two. Then we have no favouritism certainly out there, but we want it to go down to the final. A bit like the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup did a couple of weeks ago back at Imola, where all 4 championships, all 3 of the drivers and the teams as well, all came down right to the very last race of the championship. What can Nils-Erik Isaacson do? He's actually just starting a lap at the moment. Fair amount of pressure on this time because I think he's only going to have this lap and 1 more, and even that I'm not 100% confident about. No, yeah, he will just about get 2 more laps in should he have the fuel and the tyres to do so. He's got plenty of fresh air. You can see a lot of drivers on their out laps. You have got to complete your time before the 32 minutes is up. That is why we have the extended 2 minutes for the pro drivers, so that's fairly even for everyone else on circuit. And a few of those drivers, Sammarco and Byfeld, just starting those final lap times for themselves, so keep an eye out on them. You can check out the live timing link in the description below to see exactly what their sector times are like. What can Stephen David do? Very strong qualifying already for the Scuderia Volpi Gialla car, and he does improve again, but it's not enough to move himself up the order.
One thing that I believe might have bit Isaacson so far in this qualifying session, as you can see, his current lap time is 20 seconds off the pole. I think one thing that might have bit him so far is track limits, because at a track like this, which has a fair amount of asphalt runoff, you have some very lenient shoulders here. It's not an old school track like Phillip Island, let's just say, the last round of the season, where if you go off, you're just going to go straight into grass. This track, you can abuse the track limits a little bit, and I think that's something that might play a little bit into this race, into this qualifying session. I believe Isaacson might have had that bullet bite him earlier, but he's going to cross the start-finish line now and move up to 3rd. That is a fantastic lap there from Nils-Erik Isaacson. That was a fantastic lap there.
It really was. That's a close top 5. I was looking a bit dominating for Sammarco when he went 0.3 of a second clear of the rest a few minutes into this 3rd part of qualifying. But credit to the others, they have upped their game. Well, let's see if Sammarco can go even further clear. It's not looking like a very good lap so far. No personal best, albeit, yeah, this is a proper pushing lap. This is his last lap as well. He won't have time to set another one. Can he improve further? I doubt he will do. And he crosses the line, and I'm not seeing anything pop up. Next up will be Marcus Byfeld, but he's had to tow back to the pit, so he clearly went off circuit on his last lap. And it's very much up to Isaacson, Vangen, and Meyer, and maybe Winkler as well, to put some pressure. And even this bad Dominic Enkel, I'm sure, has the capabilities to go up a few places.
If he can even match the pace of his teammate Carl Winkler, that would be very close and a very good qualifying run for him. He'd have to pick up a few tenths. We'll see what happens here. Currently 1.4 seconds off of the pole. I do not believe he improved that lap, so it might have just been a slow lap. Or for all we know, we could have had a lap time invalidation there. As I mentioned, the drivers, as you can see them abusing the track limits. Thomas Wangen abusing the track limits. They're pulling all 4 into the drag strip, which back when F1 last raced here was really a slip and slide, but here in the dry conditions in iRacing, it's a very good. Wow, that was big hit there of Wangen hitting the inside curb of turn 1. That might catch out a lot of drivers throughout tonight's racing action, because that curb is deadly.
And there's Meyer, the last man to be able to take this pole position from Antonino Sammarco by his sector time so far. I don't think it's going to be even close, honestly, and I think you can tell by the car's language there, it was not close. It was half a second off, and it is another pole position for Antonino Sammarco. the smallest pole position margin we've had this season, but it is enough to get him that coveted pole position, and that will be a big advantage compared to second position, I am sure. So there is the drivers lining up behind the Porsche pace car at the moment, and let's have a look at what our grid looks like. Antonino Samarco on pole, ahead of Byfeld, Isaacson, Vangen and Meyer. There's Eric Rosset, who's top of the Pro-Am drivers. Carl Winkler needs to make up a fair few places there in 7th place, but that top 5 do seem a bit detached from the rest of the order. Then it's Roberto Castellozzi, Gordon Hawk, Kim, Andre Bjorkland, Alexander Scarrett, David Vey, top of the amateur drivers. That's exactly what he needs for his championship. Then it's Stephen David, Ketel Larsen, Dominic Engel, Chris Crook, Simon Moldecleve, Jeremy De Boiver, Yannick Willems, Didier De Vlemnik, Thomas Pugh, Leon Leao, Alex Bevans, Christian Biasati, who did not take part in qualifying, along with Stuart Wyness, PJ Clysons, and Thomas Byrne. Good to see PJ there. I think he joined the session very late, I want to say. Maybe not. No, I think it may have been Burby that entered the session very late. But yeah, best of luck to both of them. Yeah, it should be a nice one. 2 races, of course, coming up today.
Think of all the tracks to skip out on the qualifying session. I think Hockenheim might be the one that's the most excusable, I feel. I think there's plenty of overtaking opportunities for these drivers. Just looking over the track map, you can see obviously that very long flat-out blast going into the hairpin of turn 6. That'll definitely be a big overtaking opportunity for a lot of these drivers. But other corners like turn 2, the hard braking zone there coming off of the really tricky kink of T1, but they're still carrying a lot of speed through there, and it's still a very heavy braking zone. So I think there's plenty of overtaking opportunities for these drivers. So the drivers that didn't take part in the qualifying session, I think their chances aren't entirely done. So we'll just have to wait and see how their races go.
I think we can all agree we really hope that Eric Seth doesn't have a crash at the start, because we want to see as much of that 296 as he possibly can. I'm sure we've got probably years of that 296 coming up, and we may even grow to hate the car potentially if it becomes particularly strong or if it has annoying characteristics. But right now, we just want to have our eyes pinned on that Italian GT3 car, honestly, and so I'm certainly rooting for him to do fairly well in this race. But Antonino Samarco, he needs no backing. He's already won 6 races so far this season, and he's looking to make it another one in his McLaren as he gets on the power very, very early, and he's already well clear of the rest of the order. It's a poor start for Byfeld, who's already behind Isaacson, who's able to take the normal racing line, looking like it might even go 3 wide going into turn 4. Byfeld's going to have to go off the circuit to hold on to this space. The Street Trans Racing driver trying to muscle his way out. Looks like he might get a little bit boxed in. Thomas Vangen just behind, and look at Carl Winkler. He's trying to make moves, and he is up a position there, up into 6th position, heading into turn 2 on this circuit. Samarco well clear, as we have got an incident behind involving Dominic Engel and Ketel Larsen.
That's unfortunate there. Just a small little stack up there coming through turn 2, and I believe that caught out some drivers badly out there. There's the Porsche off in the grass there doing a bit of lawn mowing, going down the back flat-out blast, but so far so clean besides that small little incident. Some lawn mowing. Those 2 drivers, a lot of drivers going side by side coming through turn 1. I'm surprised that ended smoothly for them, but more drivers going side by side coming through the hairpin. That's very close to contact there between Christopher Crook, I believe, and Angle there. That was extremely close. I believe that might have actually been contact as it went through the hairpin. We're going 3 wide for these drivers right towards the back. That's a battle between Worm Bevins and I believe that's Lars. Actually, no, that's Worm Bevins and Biasati there. So a lot of close battling here. Interclass battling as well. You got a pro driver, a pro-am driver, and a pro driver. So you've got a lot of cars very close to each other. Some fantastic battling, but so far so clean.
Good work from the majority of the field. Good work from this man. He's 1.5 seconds clear of the rest. It was Eric Isaacson in 2nd position. And Anders Meyer, not only did he get past Marcus Byfeld on that first lap, he also got past Thomas Bangen. Bangen also with a poor start, despite starting Bangen in, well, no, to be fair, it makes sense. He started in 4th position. That was behind Byfeld, and Byfeld was awfully slow to get underway. He was caught napping. Samarco went pretty much as soon as he got out of the final corner, and the rest of the field were all playing catch up from that moment onwards. Leon Liao might be overtaken by Dominic Engel, I'm just saying, with 17th position, Engel has to stay behind for now. At the corner, they lost so many positions on lap 1.
Lots of great action here so far. We've got a beautiful view of Liang Lau's Ferrari. That's just fantastic. As you said, we might grow tired of it, but for now, we are just enjoying it. Certainly, Dominic Engel's not enjoying the back of that Ferrari of Liang Lau. He is going for the move there. It's very close there. That's definitely contact. More contact there with Christopher Crook sneaking down the inside. He was very opportunistic there going into the hairpin. Unfortunately for him, it's not going to work out too well. Didn't get too much damage on his car, I believe. Might not have gotten any damage at all, but he still is stuck behind that Ferrari now as they go into that corner. Oh, there's a Sim Racing Norway driver going off there. That's Gordon Haug there. Had a good qualifying run. Unfortunately for him, it has all gone to pot so far. That's, I believe, coming through turn 8 there. I believe the exit of turn 8 had a small little simple spin. We'll get a replay here to see exactly what happened.
And remarkably, the one car that he collided with was his own teammate, Simon Multicleve, behind. Oh no, yeah, that was his teammate, right? But it wasn't Multicleve. I think it was, or maybe I'm making stuff up. No, I think it was Multicleve. I think it was Bjorkland who initially managed to avoid him. But yeah, disappointing for Haug, who, as you say, had a fantastic qualifying. He was on pole position. I think I may have said that wrong earlier on. He said they was on pole position, but no, it was Haug on pole position for the AMS. At least he isn't requiring any repairs at the moment.
Yeah, that's really a tough break for Gordon Haug. He put in a fantastic qualifying effort, as you said. Grabbed his first pole position of the year, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. He's usually been up towards the front of the AM drivers, but I don't believe he has led an AM field so far this season until Heat 1 tonight. Unfortunately for him, Race 1, Heat 1 tonight for this round just goes horribly wrong very, very quickly. So that's a shame. It's always frustrating to have an issue like that so early on. It really hurts you, and it really is. Big ego hit, so I'm sure he's going to try and look for redemption later on when Heat 2 arrives. But right now we're seeing some very close battling here, once again involving Christopher Crook and Liang Lau. This time it involves Stuart Wyness in the Track Scotland car. Those two drivers are going side by side, coming through the fast little kink there of turn 7 there, and they go hard on the brakes going into T8. It is Christopher Crook holding onto that position. That was I think Stuart Wyness just backed at that. I think he realizes that at this point in the race, we're only 5 minutes in to this 25-minute race 1 here. I think he realized that he has to pick his battles and just kind of lay back, relax, enjoy the show, and just, if drivers have mistakes up ahead of them, you really just let them be and just pick off the positions, because at this stage of the race, it's not really too worth it to force the issue like that.
I think we may well need another class, because Samarco is in a league of his own. At the moment, he's over 3 seconds clear, and Niels Erik Isaacson has a queue forming up behind him. Now, he did have his teammate, Thomas Vangen, line up very close to him on the grid, next to him on the grid. They were on 3rd and 4th. Now he's got a couple of cars between him and his IGL Coatings partner, and instead he's got Anders Meyer all over the back of him, and Meyer, with very little to lose, he is 3rd place in the championship, but he very much realises that the championship win is completely out of hope, as Eric Seth is going quite slowly. I wonder if that's a slowdown for a track extending at turn 1.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most likely option. That couldn't even have been his fault. I mean, there's just so many ways you can go wide there, either just being a bit too overly opportunistic with the track limits, or just hitting that inside killer curve of turn 1, the Nord curve here on the Hockenheim track. Never mind, we're seeing some battling here up towards the front between Isaacson and Meyer. Meyer loses a position there. Those two drivers are still extremely close. Meyer is trying to force the issue, because even though he's, I wouldn't say he's really in the championship fight at this point. It's really between Samarco and Carl Winkler, but I still think Anders Meyer is trying to race the final few weeks of this series for all-out glory. Just go out and try and snag a win, or even just finish in the top 3 in points and maintain that position he has in the point standings right now. So he's definitely trying to force the issue, and is probably starting to get a little bit impatient seeing the back of Isaacson's car.
Yeah, and if he doesn't overtake, probably by Feld and Vangen and Winkler will be looking to overtake him before long. Still got plenty of time left in this race, however, as Samarco continues to open up, and look how far wide as well Isaacson is there. He'll pick up a 1x, but as long as he doesn't get a slowdown, he'll be feeling fairly alright. They do get 20 incidents, and at 20 incidents they do get a drive-through penalty to these drivers. By the way, we did see the tail end of a move for Alexander Skiret at the turn 6 hairpin on that previous lap. He is up to the top of the Pro-Ams, And for his slim championship hopes, currently 3rd place in the Prams, that's exactly what the Norwegian driver needs. He's up to 7th position now overall, as Meyer continues to close in his Porsche, but not close enough into that turn 6 hairpin, which I think has another name actually, but everyone just knows it as the turn 6 hairpin.
Taking a look real quick at my track map, thanks to the wonderful service for everyone in the world of motorsports that is Wikipedia. It just has the corner of turn 6, a hairpin labeled as hairpin, so I guess we'll just call it hairpin instead of the hairpin.
On my one, it says Spitzker. Spitzker is the name of the hairpin. RacingCircus.info. Big thanks to them, because yes.
Oh, you're right.
But I mean, yeah, I've never heard someone call it that, honestly. But correct us on the YouTube chat. Do you think of it as turn 6 hairpin? Do you think of it as Spitzker? I certainly know which way I lean on it.
Part of me feels like I'll just call it the hairpin just because I don't want to annoy either our producer Samuli, who is German and will probably read me the riot act after this if I mispronounce the name, or I don't want to annoy any of my German relatives. I don't want to bring shame to my German heritage, so I'll just call it the hairpin for now. So we've seen a lot of moves in the hairpin. I'll have to ask some of these drivers if that was really the only overtaking opportunity, because we've seen some more passing all around this track. We've seen some moves going into turn 8. We've also seen some moves going into turn 2, but I think so far for these drivers, their preferred overtaking opportunity is turn 8. But right as I say that, Stuart Winus goes for the send there on Liao. That was very far back, I believe, but that was still a fantastic move there from Stuart Winus, who moves up into P19.
And just ahead of them, Christopher Crook is going to be overtaken by Christian Biasati. Now, I think Crook was involved in an incident on lap 1, and he's going to lose a place to Biasati, who had a qualifying ban behind them. De Vlaeminck has gone wide. I'm not sure if that was an attempted move, whether he was forced out as he comes back onto the circuit, and he hits Thomas Verm, who was not able to take part in qualifying. I don't think he had a ban, did Verm, but he just entered the session, I think, a bit too late. And then that is him into the fence. Let's see what happened there.
That's a shame. Worm was putting together a fantastic race, and my untimely opera singing there spells the end for him. Vlaeminck goes for a really deep send there, and unfortunately for him, he gets it horribly wrong, and then the rejoin here, just really close there. He didn't want to ride on the curb, which I believe is pretty flat through there, so he probably could have afforded to ride on the curb, but he wanted to press the issue and let the two drivers on the inside of him know that he was there. But unfortunately for De Vlaeminck and Worm mainly, those two drivers got involved in that incident about halfway through this first heat.
Lennart Schnabel, what a helpful man, as we see Thomas Wangen round. What has happened to Thomas Wangen at turn 2? And that is crucial, because he's not even in the top 10 anymore. And for race 2, the top 10 are inverted from the race 1 results to form the race 2 grid. He was behind Marcus Beifeld. He's not trying to go for a move at all. He's not tipped a wheel onto the grass on the corner entry. I think did he just tap the back of Beifeld, I wonder?
Yeah, it could have been. It looked very close for them, but I think what might have done him in was the curb hit. The curbs here, it feels like they're painted not with just regular paint, just with oil, complete oil. These curbs are painted with, so unfortunately for Wangen there, that cost him dearly. He has a very strange spin there, nearly gives a bump. I believe he did give a bump there, actually, yeah, to Willems there. So now Wangen is probably very annoyed after that mistake. I'm sure he's going to be kicking himself for the rest of Heat 1, but I think that might put him in a decent position, even though he is pretty far back to Stephen David, who's currently in the P10 spot. If he can make up that 2-second gap to the Lamborghini in P10, he might be able to grab the pole for Heat race number 2. So I believe, even though it is a very unfortunate mistake, Wangen could probably still salvage a very good thing out of that very unfortunate mistake.
Yeah, it's not that much to catch, is there? So yeah, that's very possible. The top 5 are so far clear, and then yeah, you got that big gap back to Scuret, and then after that it's pretty much all one pack. That was a bit unusual. I'm not sure what was going on there with Yannick Willems, but he seemed very happy to let Thomas Wangen past, and now he's not quite so happy to give up this position. And this is Jeremy De Boyver, who's trying to take second place out of the outer judge, and these two are absolutely not giving any space to one another. And again, a slight cutting off there from De Boiver nearly spelt disaster. And now trying to go for the cutback as well is Willems. 10th to a second behind. Whoever's later on the brakes will certainly be ahead going into the apex. And there's a tiny bit of a tap, a bit of wheel spin as well. But after all of that, Jeremy De Boiver is in 13th place overall, but it was hard fought.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Nice drift there from De Boiver there, going through the hairpin there with help from Willems, who might be a little bit impatient. We saw him nearly have a bump and run done to him from Wangen, so I think he might be a little bit upset. That was definitely a lot of contact there. These drivers are breaking their elbows out. I think with the season end nearing for these drivers, I think they might be getting a little bit less patient than they were before. These drivers are also towards the front of the AM championship fight, so I think that might be a little bit more. It might not just be bragging rights to get a top 12. It's really just to try and claw for every championship point they can. But that was some very close stuff. They made contact probably about 5 times within the span of about 30 seconds. That was very hard fought, but that was fantastic to watch as well.
Then Actionable letting us know in the chat, Spitz curve is German for hairpin, of course. So you are right to call it the hairpin. So yeah, thanks Lennart for that. That's the type of stuff that, you know, we are absent on. So thanks to the chat for acknowledging that one. Ooh, that's quite a big crash, isn't it? Gordon Hawk, his day's gone from bad to worse, and that's after escaping the necessity of a faster pair earlier on. I don't think he's escaped it that time.
Yeah, I think his radiator is very sad after that. We're going to get a replay here. The very troubling spot of turn 1 that I highlighted in the broadcast was going to be very tricky. The curbs there as well. Hit the inside curb a little bit, then got shot to the outside, rode on that curb for a little bit, and then lost it over the curb that seems to be painted with oil. And unfortunately for Gordon Haug, his day, as you said, goes from bad to worse.
Oh dear, contact now between De Vlamnik and Leo, and well, at first view it did look like Leo came across fairly hard there, and around a part of the track where there's been some fairly big crashes in real life in the past. That is another one, and De Vlamnik requiring repairs, and I think Leo potentially as well requiring repairs, making that very good looking 296 a bit of an eyesore.
Yeah, it's very interesting interpretation of aerodynamics. These drivers might be hitting each other to try and get some kind of downforce or drag advantage. I'm not sure why they've been banging into each other so much, but the drivers are busting their elbows out. We saw a lot of chaos in 2 weeks ago at Phillip Island. We saw a lot of drivers banging into each other, a lot of drivers going off the track, and so far we're about 15 minutes through race 1 here tonight, and already a lot of drivers just being and banging with each other. More drivers being and banging with each other. This is a battle here.
And this is Meyer getting clear of Isaacson. Isaacson's not completely done yet. If he can keep part of his car alongside through the fast right and heading into the Mercedes grandstand, he is going to get back alongside. They make contact for the second time, and they could well make contact for the third time as well, because now the track switches to the right again, and it looks like Meyer is going to have the upper hand, because heading into the stadium section into Mobile 1 curve, the Norwegian driver gets past his compatriots, and now their Nordic brother of Marcus Beifeld will try to move through as well. But that was hard earned there for Meyer. He'd been waiting for that overtake for 15 minutes, and even when it did come, it took him about a sector off this Hockenheim circuit to close the deal.
I think 2 Nordic brothers are going to be very happy if these 2 drivers of Meyer and Isaacson start battling even more. Certainly Marcus Beifeld would be very happy if these 2 drivers battle really hard. And I think Thomas Wangen, who we saw have that mistake early on, he would be extremely happy if these 2 battled so hard that they made contact and crashed into each other, because if these 2 drivers fall out of the top 10, he is in the catbird seat to finish P10 and then grab that pole position for Heat 2, so we'll just have to wait and see. But these drivers are battling extremely hard. They're battling so hard that Carl Winkler's now gotten involved. You can see that Mercedes right at the back of the shot there. He's a little bit of a peloton forming here as they go down the back straightaway, which is called the Parabolica, but not the one you have at Monza. Those drivers are extremely close now, and it's been really hard battling for all of them. Marcus Byfeld has really just been minding his own business, but these drivers battling as hard as they have been has slowed them down enough to bring Carl Winkler in, and now I think Winkler might look for a move on Byfeld.
I think Winkler's going to go for anything too crazy. He's usually a very clean driver. Is the course sim racing drivers Biasazzi taking a very awkward line there. You can see he's got some damage on that bonnet of the Porsche, so I wonder if he's just had a bit of a collision. I think he has done, because I think he was ahead of Yannick Willems earlier on, as he's going to get back alongside. Willems has to afford some space for him on the apex. He does hold on for now. Simon Moldecleve is the driver ahead of them, but back comes Biasazzi, and he's going to launch it into the stadium section. And they've done well to avoid any contact there, particularly Willems. He's had to try to make the best of that bad situation as Dominic Engel closes in on these guys extremely quickly.
One driver that had a very big moment throughout that battle is we're seeing Biasazzi go for the move down the inside. That was very close there. That's very, very tight there, but Moldecleve also had a very big moment. There's another Porsche going off. That's Simon Moldecleve again. He had a mistake coming into the stadium section. He has a mistake coming through the final corner, and he's going to lose the position there to Willems with a fantastic move going around the outside of turn one. That's the contact there with Biasazzi. He went for a very strange block, you could call it, going out of turn one and going into turn two. Nearly contact. That's definitely contact there again. These drivers are bringing their elbows at this. Some hard-fought stuff here.
Yeah, and also we've got 3 wide, Castellossi. We might even have 4 wide. Look at this. Going into the turn 6 hairpin. Oh, he has some brain, does Ray. He just backs out of it, doesn't want anything to do with it. I saw it was 3 wide for a moment, as Eric Roseth has had an instant as well, and that changes the complexion of the reverse grid. And out of all of that, I think it was Thomas Vangen who came out on top. Vangen's gone from 12th to 8th in half a lap right there. And he's right back into the top 10, and with a couple of places to spare as well. It was actually Bjorklund who came out on top of all of them. And what a couple of corners that was. Amazing sight to see manufacturers 4 wide to the parabolic right there.
These drivers simply do not fear death. I know it's sim racing, but still, they do not fear death. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone for the moves that they did, and I believe that's another mistake there from Simon Moldecleve going through the stadium section. Unfortunately for him, he's going to lose a bunch of positions there. Spun around again. There's another driver. That's Yannick Williams there. Oh no, that's a mistake from him, the Belgian driver, who's had a very chaotic race. He's been the camera car for a lot of incidents that we've had throughout this race, and a lot of heated moments. There's Moldecleve going for a spin there, and just, yeah, that was very hard contact. Unfortunately for him, that'll probably end his day short, and Roseth was very close to getting collected in that as well. Just chaos here.
Fair few self-mistakes. So Bjorklund, after getting up into that 6th position, then, or 7th position, then made a mistake. He's back down to 9th. That's still good enough for a reverse grid pole. I'd be curious to know what happened to the Pro-Am driver of, was it Roseth, who I think spun round at the hairpin. I'm not sure what's going on with Roseth.
I believe you're right.
But yeah, of course, he's down to 17th position. We sort of saw the aftermath of it. And let's see, it's all going to be by himself. What a mistake from Eric Roseth. This is not what he needs for his championship aspirations. And he just spins up the rear tyres, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's just simple mistake there. It's unfortunate for Roseth. We've seen him have a lot of chaos throughout this race, and he nearly got collected as well. And that was... Saw the other Porsche there having a big wiggle there coming out of the hairpin. So just simple mistake there. I was expecting him to kind of lose it over the curb because, as I said very early on in this broadcast, these new Ferraris do not really cooperate very well with the curbs. But no, that wasn't really the curb involved with that. That was just a simple mistake for Eric Roseth, and that's going to cost him dearly.
Unfortunately for him, he's currently leading in the Pro-Am Championship is Roseth. But Otterholt is a while back at the moment. Well, a while back, 23 points behind, but he's not, crucially, he's not here tonight. It's Otterholt. Scuret is here, however, so Scuret could be making up a lot of points with a fantastic 6th position as it stands. Here comes Wynette. He's stormed through almost half the field. He's up 10 places now from 25th on the grid. And Biasazzi and Engel, they will be very tough to catch and pass by the end of this race. The Scottish driver very much making the best of this race one. Of course, that will mean that he'll be starting up higher in race 2. He'll be starting 15th place as it stands.
I certainly think that Stuart YNS has absolutely nothing to hang his head on. He's put together an absolutely amazing drive. Sure, he might want to finish in the top 10, but actually I was going to say that it's probably off the cards, but with the amount of carnage and chaos that we've seen, not only in this race, but the last few races as well, it's been very chaotic. We might see some mistakes from other drivers ahead, and for all we know, Stuart YNS could still sneak a top 10 out of this race. It's just been absolutely chaotic, but Stuart YNS has put together a great drive. P15 is still very fantastic, making up 10 positions. That's just a fantastic drive from him so far.
It'll be very close whether we get 2 more laps or 3 more laps. But I think it is just 2 more laps. Yeah, we're going to miss out on the 3rd lap by about 10 seconds. So that would be good news for, I think, a few of the drivers, because they would have been judging it by their own pace and not this man's pace, which has been far quicker than anyone else out on circuit. To be fair, since my overturn can go up into 2nd place, the gap hasn't been increasing nearly as much. Isaacson very much keeping in touch, and Byfield as well staying in 4th place. Winkler not with the pace to keep up with them. He is very much 5th or 6th best, honestly, tonight, is Carl Winkler. I think 5th place is pretty much as he could have hoped for, honestly, and that will cause him to have a few more points to catch up in the championship going into the 2nd half of this evening. But out of these 3, honestly, I doubt any changes are going to be made. It looks like Myers fairly comfortable.
And yeah, just taking a quick look through the rest of the field, David Vey right now is in P10, so he's in that catbird seat to start from the pole position in Heat 2. Certainly a lot left to play for here, and the amount of carnage we've seen so far tonight. Anything could happen. For all we know, he could end up P5 by the end of this. We just never know, so we'll have to wait and see what happens in the final lap and a half of this race. But David Vey has put together a fantastic race so far. The leader of the AM drivers, and currently in the catbird seat, as I said earlier, to grab that front starting position for Heat 2. That'd be very impressive there from David Vey. He's made up 2 positions, start up towards the front. He's avoided drama, he's avoided chaos, was involved in that 4 wide moment going into the hairpin. So he's been very smart. He's decided to keep it out of the wall and keep it out of the other cars on track, and that's something that has played very well in David Vey's hands. He's just been very calm, consistent, and as we see with Carl Winkler, who hasn't won a lot this season, he's still up towards the front of the pro drivers. So just keeping it calm, keeping it consistent, and just keeping it on the road to finish first. First you have to finish, and for David Vey, that's played a good hand here. So depending on how things go in a little bit, he might be able to start Heat 2 up at the front.
Yeah, he's still out lapping Castellozzi and De Boiver, so it certainly doesn't look like he's going to come under any pressure. I do think it'll probably be best for him to stay behind Kimon J. Bjorklund. He was catching up by 3.5 tenths of a second on that previous tour of the circuit. I wonder if there's going to be a change as well between Vangen and David. David had a setback earlier on. I very randomly exclaimed, "Stephen David," earlier on, because I thought he was spinning round. I think he just lost 1 place. But I thought it was the first of many, but in fact actually he didn't lose many places, hence why he's up there in 8th position, and he is very close to Thomas Vangen, but I don't think he's going to overtake. There you can see though, Antonino Sammarco absolutely dominating, and this is just the final couple of corners for him to negotiate now, and it will be another race victory. And the man who struggled recently in the B race formats, well, absolutely no trouble for him today, and he's going to take another race victory and another 70 points as well to his championship tally. Sammarco wins first race at Hockenheim ahead of Meyer, Isaacson, Byfield and Winkler. Alexander Skura is going to be top of the Pro-Am drivers. One of his best drives of the season, brings himself right back into championship contention, and it looks like David Vey is going to stick in 10th position and take that reverse grid pole position.
Fantastic race from Vey, fantastic race there from Antonio Sammarco. He's just been so dominant throughout the season. He's been basically faultless. The small mistakes that we have seen have been fairly big mistakes, though, and unfortunately this might be a mistake here from Stuart Wynas, who, as you can hear, he's running out of fuel. So he is going to lose down some spots here. Might drop out of the top 20 here Looks like he will. No, I believe he actually is going to grab the final position in the top 20. So a big mistake there from Stuart Linus. But getting back to the point I was going to mention with Antonio Samarco, he's just been basically faultless so far this season with how big of a gap he had throughout most of this race. I'm shocked he probably wasn't on his phone scrolling through TikTok halfway through this race.
Yeah, that was easy for him. And it has been odd how, you know, Jerez and Phillip Island, he really wasn't there, particularly Jerez. You know, he was only the 5th or 6th fastest driver. It's maybe down to the McLaren not mixing well with every circuit, but of course this is his home circuit. I know a lot of people have an affinity to Hockenheim, and so maybe plenty of laps, plenty of inspiration, and a strong desire to do well at this home venue for himself. We're now into the 3-minute warm-up session. Shall we have a look at what the final results were in that race 1 of the evening? Because it was very dominant for Antonio Samarco, and well, taking the race victory by some 7 seconds in the end, ahead of Isaacson, apologies, ahead of Meyer, then it was Isaacson, Byfeld, Winkler, Skerrett, Vangen, David, with one of his best drives of the season, I feel like. Then it's Bjorklund, Vey up there. Castellozzi was down 3 places. You'll feel frustrated, as everyone always feels frustrated in 11th place. There was De Boiver of the Jeremy variety. Biasati from the back. Engel, Crook, Rosseth, Pugh, Willems. And then the back third of the grid was Larson, Wyness, Lie, Horg, Bevans, Moldecleve, Devlamnik, and Plyson. So I don't think was able to take the start, unfortunately.
That was a very interesting Heat 1, certainly action-packed from start to finish. Had a lot of carnage throughout that, had a lot of chaos, and we might see a bit more of that in Heat 2, I believe. With the reverse grid, I think we might have some drivers pushing really hard. I'm sure Antonio Samarco is going to be pushing extremely hard, even with the big championship gap he has. He is going to be trying to push and grab that win, because even though a championship might be nice, but with the gap that he has, I think he'll probably just say, you know what, screw it, I'm going to go I'm going to try and get this W, and he certainly got that in Heat 1. We'll just have to wait and see if he can complete a night sweep here of the 2 races for the final 2 race evening here on the ARL GT3 trophy season here in Hockenheim. We'll just have to wait and see if he can complete that sweep.
Yeah, I do think he's got a very good chance, and Samarco historically has usually been quite cautious when it comes to the Heat 2s. Doesn't feel too much of a rush to get up there. We'll see if he continues that philosophy tonight. By the way, quick shout out to Apex Racing Academy, who are one of the sponsors for this series, and of course with the new season of iRacing starting today, actually, Apex Racing Academy is absolutely the place to get setups and track tutorials for many different official series, whether that be GT3 racing, GT4 racing, or maybe even in the new Super Formula as well. There are specialist coaches for each of the cars who have got pedigree in each of the racing categories that they cover. And well, if you want to get some of their setups and track guides, do visit apexracingac.com. Get yourself a bronze, silver, or gold subscription, and get ready to go faster on iRacing in this 2023 Season 4.
Some of the drivers might have needed a little bit of that to try and prevent the mistakes. Certainly not downcrediting and downplaying the other driver's skill in this series, but a lot of those drivers were pulling off some pretty aggressive moves. A lot of drivers seeming a bit more impatient as the season goes on, so we'll have to see if that impatience carries over to Heat 2.
Let's find out. It's very on pole position for probably the first time in Apex Racing League history, I think. Bjorklund in second place. Then it's David making 3 different classes in the top 3 places. Then it's Vangen, Skerrett, Winkler, Byfeld, Isaacson, Meyer, and Samarco. The rest of the order are the same order as what they were in race 1. Or at the end of race 1, at least. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I feel like they may have been within the first group, maybe back at Watkins Glen. I think maybe, or maybe it was another amateur driver. It's a treacherous position. I mean, it's an obvious thing to say, Ron, but obviously, you know, whilst you're out at the front, you got only one way to go back, and you have got to negotiate the overtaking of 8 or 9 other drivers past you during the race. I mean, I know some drivers, particularly in the amateur category, get a little bit shied away from even taking the pole position sometimes in this situation.
One thing that I think David Vey will have to do on this start is he'll have to, I wouldn't say be dominant, he has to show dominance to Kim Andre and Bjorklund right next to him, because what we can see sometimes is the drivers starting on the outside, the left-hand side of the start-finish straightaway from the driver's perspective. We'll try and push them a little bit more towards the inside, because as I mentioned multiple times throughout this broadcast already, with that killer curb on the inside of Turn 1, the Nord curve on this circuit, it can wreck your race entirely. So I think David Vey is going to have to establish his position, get off to a good start, and if he gets off to a great start like we saw Samarco get off to, I think he'll be golden.
And taking that same starting position could well be a smart tactic for him. Remember, Samarco went straight away, pretty much at this point, and he has taken that same choice, and look how well it's worked. He's way cleared the rest of the field. David Vey leads us to start race 2 of the evening. Stephen David with a strong start, but they're going to go too wide into turn 1, and it's going to be very tricky as having to go way off the circuit. There is Bjorklund realizing that the apex was never an opportunity for him. They always make contact as the track narrows after turn 1. They head into turn 2. Look out for Anthony and Samarco on the inside in his McLaren. It looks like a Sprinkler has been able to get past there of another driver, Alexander Scuret. He's just been able to rotate. That's 2 places gained now for Winkler, as much of the field remain too wide through the parabolica and into the turn 6 hairpin. Winkler now trying to cover off that inside line. I think he's going to be able to do that successfully, but deep on the brakes is the 279 as they all just about get it stopped. Samarco almost making contact. Samarco actually getting a very poor exit there from the hairpin as the rest of the drivers cycle their way through. But, well, it's like a zip right now. It is too wide all the way down the field.
So Marco has not made a very good impression so far. Oh, there's a car spinning off. I believe that's one of the Sim Racing Norway entries. Not sure where that is. I believe that's Gordon Howe. Yeah, no, he makes contact with Liang Lao. Oh no, that's unfortunate there. Another issue there for Liang Lao in the same corner where he had a big mistake there. Unfortunately, oh Jesus, that was nearly Alex Bevins there in the other Koala car, who we haven't mentioned throughout this broadcast. He's had a very quiet and very difficult race. Unfortunately for him, he nearly got caught up in that, but thankfully he escapes out with that damage. But we see some fantastic racing going on farther up towards the front. Another Sim Racing Norway car of Kim Andre and Bjorklund, but right behind him is a battling between Alexander Scaret and Anders Meyer. It's just chaos. It's fantastic stuff all throughout this field, and Anders Meyer is going to try and establish dominance, go down the inside, and get that move done to move up into the 6th position over Scaret. This is some fantastic stuff so far, and I don't believe it's going to slow down anytime soon, because I think Antonio Samarco is going to go for the move down the inside of Marcus Beifeld. I was expecting these two to battle for the lead, not battling for 8th, but that's what it is right now with the reverse grid nature of Heat 2 here on the ARL GT3 trophy. The drivers are still going side by side. Antonio Samarco hasn't really had a fantastic start. He really maintained position. I think he only moved up 1 spot so far, so he's looking to move up another one with the driver that I felt was going to be a big threat tonight, and that is Marcus Beifeld. He gets the inside line, going through the hairpin, and manages to get that move done.
Yeah, Samarco's already 5 seconds off the lead, well, 4.6 seconds off the lead. And that's a huge amount of field spread. And Vey hasn't really got away as well. Like, I know he got away on the launch, but he has been caught since. This is Chris Crook, I believe, in 13th position. Crook's had a good pace tonight, honestly. I mean, it's a bit underrated, but I think he had a bit of a setback at the start of race 1. I think he collided with Dominic Engel. And, well, he managed to make up a lot of places in race 1. He's made up a couple more places as well in race 2. Everyone's in a queue right now, you can see. The top 3 are in a queue. And then we've got, the top 4 in a queue, and then we've got 5th down to 21st, all in a queue as well. This is quite a packed field right now, and they're all getting the draft of one another, which will make overtaking a little bit more tricky, but obviously, as time goes by, those gaps will start emerging.
So as you said, we've got a, you can call it a queue, I would call it a train here in America, so we've got a train from 5th on down, so as I did at Road Atlanta, all aboard the Bjorklund train. Oh no, right as I pull off that little joke there, we see some battling here. The train has derailed there for Kim Andre Bjorklund as he loses a spot there from Anders Meyer. Loses one spot, he might lose two, he might lose three there as those drivers are going side by side. We have to battle up towards the front now. We've got Stephen David looking for a move, Wangen looking for a move there on the inside. David Vey, he might be able to pull it off there. Vey might lose one or two positions here. That's very close there between Vey and David there. That's extremely close there. I believe they might have made a bit of contact there coming through the hairpin, still going side by side as they go into the very fast kink of turn 7 and go on the brakes going into turn 8. But I believe now Carl Winkler is looking very impressive right now. He's moved up to third, just got past Stephen David, and now David Vey is going to be in his sights. That was very close. That was a very inopportune time to pull out the harmonica, because right as I was about to make a joke, they all start battling and everything starts kicking off. That's from some fantastic battling there.
There's never a bad time for a harmonica, never. But that was, yeah, pretty tight and banging. Crucially up into the lead, and this is now the part of the race where he's got to make pay and try to make a gap, because it won't be long until Winkler moves past as well. Behind them there was another absolutely huge battle, and it was Anders Meyer who managed to get to the front of that second group. And Bjorklund, Samarko up into 7th position now, and Scuret I think was the big loser out. He's down to 8th after all of that fighting. Piazzati having a nice time, but he's up into 9th. He's actually got ahead of Marcus Beifeld, so Beifeld continuing to drop down the order. Samarko though, I think lining up, Meyer will fancy this race, I think. He had a very good battle, I think, back at Watkins Glen for the race win. Samarko came up against a fair few Porsches on that day. But it's the straight line speed of this McLaren, or at least the way that Samarko sets it up, which usually enables him in these racecraft events to have an advantage over his rivals, and he's going to try to use that again here. He's slightly deeper on the brakes. There's a little bit of contact perhaps. Meyer will move past, and look at Scuret, he will try to move past as well.
I think Antonio Samarco might be a little bit upset there with the move that Kim Andre Bjorklund pulled on him, and now he's going to be falling within the crutches there of Scuret. Now, actually, I say that Samarco goes for the move on Kim Andre Bjorklund and tries to get it done with a brilliant move there. That was very commanding, going down the inside of turn 8. He pulls off that move, so Antonio Samarco is now moved up to P6, but I don't think it's over yet. Kim Andre Bjorklund and Alexander Scuret are still very close to him, even though they are in the Pro-Am category. They might not give him the greatest challenge in the world, but still, that's some very close stuff there. Right now, the only driver in the top 6 that isn't a pro driver is David Vey, the AM driver, who started from the pole, had a good race. He didn't really get away too much. Unfortunately for him, it cost him quite badly, as he lost 2 spots there to Winkler and Wangen there, who run 2nd and 1st respectively. But still, David Vey has put together a fantastic drive, and just I'm at a loss for words. You can see just a massive train there. I'm not going to pull out the harmonica this time, but it's just a massive I mean, it's from, what, that's Samarco in 6th, pretty much all the way down to, you could say, Devlamnek down in 21st. So this is some incredible stuff here.
Yeah, it's so good looking, isn't it? And credit to iRacing, you know, we've now got 8 different GT3 cars active. There's even the possibility of us going up to maybe even 11 due to the new capabilities of iRacing, the optimization that's occurred. So, no, that is the best thing I think about these tin-top cars. Although there are a fair few Porsches there, it would be nice to have a bit more diversity. Here's the 296 though of Rousset, just trying to recover. Remember, he was doing so well in race 1. I think he was up in 7th position in race 1 before having a spin at the hairpin all by himself. And he hasn't made a whole lot of progress in this race too. He started 16th, he's up to 14th. We'd love to be a fair bit higher than that. He's hoping to play second fiddle to Chris Crook at the moment.
I've got a interesting, I guess it would be a hypothesis about the Ferraris, never mind. Right as I say that, we've got a battle here between Anders Meyer and David Vey. Anders Meyer is holding, those two drivers are battling very close. I believe Meyer got past Stephen David there, so that was very close there. But getting back to the point I was going to mention, I gotta wonder with the Ferrari, how does it perform in the dirty air? Because that Ferrari is very small, very low to the ground, and we've seen it kind of wreak havoc with Samarco a few times throughout this season, where those very low-slung cars with the wings not sticking up as far as the other Porsches and the BMWs do, it can play a little bit of havoc with the aerodynamic disadvantage that they have there. They're just stuck in the dirty air all the time. So I gotta wonder if the Ferrari is affected by that a little bit. So once we see the Ferrari is stuck in dirty air, they usually just drop back like a rock. So that could be the reason why Roseth has had a very troubling race so far. Right now, 14th. It's definitely not bad, but I'm sure he'd probably want to be in the top 10.
Ooh, that's going to be contacts. That's not what Anders Meyer was looking for. That's not helped anyone. And that's not going to help a lot of drivers either. As that's Alexander Skuret moving alongside Kim-Andre Bjorklund. Here is Sir Marco. He's going to move past Stephen David. Is Stephen going to stay partially alongside? He is. And Sir Marco had to turn out of the corner. I think everyone knew that which way that battle was going to go. But David did just inconvenience Sir Marco ever so slightly by keeping his nose in there. Sir Marco now 5 seconds off the lead. The gap to the lead has pretty much stayed the exact same throughout this race for Sir Marco since lap 2 because of the traffic that he's had to move through, but counteracted by just his very strong pace. It's going to be very close to see if he can make up the time in the 20 minutes we have remaining in this event. Still the queue, or the train, is going behind this time. Alexander Skuret, who's leading it in the 275, as the other drivers bustle in behind.
Here's my kind of coming up with a bunch of hypotheses in Heat 2 here. If you're Carl Winkler, you're seeing some Marco cut through the field like a hot knife through butter over the last few laps, as we're seeing some battling here with Biassadi and Bjorklund there, and I believe Christopher Crook might get involved in this as well. It's very actually no, that's Marcus Beifeld. My apologies. So Beifeld has just dropped back like a rock so far. So now he's battling with Kim-Andre and Bjorklund for P9. That's very close there, and I believe we might have another car there involved. That's Isaacson. We might see some 3-wide action here. Ooh, that's looked like Isaacson was gonna look for it there, but he backs out of it. He thought better of it, but. If you're Carl Winkler at this stage of the race, do you try and push the issue with Wangen, or you just settle for P2? What do you think? Winkler's plan is right now?
He's got to win this race in order for the championships to stay alive. Oh, contact!
Oh.
There is that's big contact, and that's humongous, and that will be fast fares required. That is Yannick Willems having a big hit to his race and his championship, with David Vey having one of the best meetings of his life right now. Yannick Willems needed a strong meeting to keep the points gap at a minimum, and that is not what's happening. He's going to have to go back to the pits. Kessel Larsen is going to have to take repairs. We've already seen one big incident at that section of the circuit already, and that is number 2 to the list.
Yeah, unfortunately for Yannick Willems there, he had a very chaotic Heat 1, and now things have gone pretty downhill here in Heat 2. He'll be picking out bits of carbon fiber and bits of concrete as well, considering how hard of a hit that was into the concrete barrier. He'll probably be picking out bits of carbon fiber and concrete out of his beard for a week after that. That was a very hard hit. So surprisingly, he didn't come into the pits even with that Porsche being as frankly destroyed as it is, but never mind that. We're seeing some Porsche battling here. This time it's between Kim-Andre Bjorklund and Isaacson. Those two drivers were battling a lap ago with Beifeld. Now Beifeld has pulled away and is now starting a battle with Biassadi up ahead, but now we're seeing some more battling here between Isaacson and Bjorklund. Those two drivers are going to go side by side going into the hairpin, and we're seeing some more action there. That's Roseth there going for the move on Beifeld's teammates of Christopher Crook. So we're seeing some more action there. Those drivers are going side by side. We've got a bunch of drivers going side by side. We've got action all up and down the field, and if you want to see any more racing action like this here on Apex Racing TV, because there is a lot of it here, just hit the subscribe button because it's absolutely awesome.
Yeah, certainly agree with that sentiment. Anders Meyer in 3rd position. Could he win this race? I wonder. Well, what are the lap times at the moment? We've got 38.41 for both of the leaders that last time out. Meyer, 3.5 tenths of a second faster. So Marco was 6 tenths faster than the leaders the last tour of the circuit. So Marco can still win this race. Vey isn't going to put up a whole lot of fight. Oh, Winkler's had a mistake. Winkler's just made a mistake in the last few seconds, I think. And that could be crucial for Carl Winkler. He's lost 2 seconds in the final sector of that lap. And from looking like, well, maybe he could hold on. Oh, Sir Marco's round. Sir Marco is round at turn 1. He was closing in on David Vey, and in a precarious position, he has to reverse, has to get back underway. And Antonino Spargo, from looking like it's going to be an easy championship extension has had another problem in its B format.
So Marco is going to have to drive like a bad AF hell if he wants to really... At this point, it's not even trying to extend that gap. It's just damage limitation at this point. We're going to get a replay to see what happened here. So Marco backs to have it there, hits the inside curb, and yep, it's the curb of death that I've referred to multiple times on this broadcast. Unfortunately for Antonio Samarco, who it seemed like he didn't put a wheel wrong in Heat 1. He puts a wheel wrong in Heat 2, and it's going to cost him badly. He drops from the top 6 all the way down to right now 18th, so that is massive. That is a very big deal, and I'm sure Carl Winkler, even with that mistake that he had last lap, I'm sure he is not very upset with how things have turned in the last lap.
Yeah, he certainly net one out of that, hasn't he? And this will probably be a drop score, well, it won't be a drop score, apologies. It will have to count this round for Samarco because his drop score is so weak. Hasn't missed a round as Samarco, but he's had some absolute nothing rounds so far this season. So that is bad news for him. He will try to come back, and dare I say, I think he'll probably be in the top 10 by the end of this race, but it's not the way that he envisioned it. It seemed like he backed out of that move, didn't he? And because he backed out of it, he was going so slow into turn 1 that he just had more grip than normal. I think that's why he took more curb. So it was that racecraft element of it that ended up being his downfall. Christian Biasati is having a brilliant battle against Micah Byfeld. We've caught a couple of moments of it. Biasati was able to get past earlier on in the race, and Byfeld wants this position back, and he has been clamouring for the past couple of laps. Niels Erik Isaacson on his comeback is right with these drivers, but this is going to be about round 5 between these two.
Yeah, just these drivers are not letting up anything. 3 rounds left in the season. It'll be 2 in a few minutes' time, but these drivers are just, they're not giving up. They're trying to battle as hard as they can. And Marcus Byfeld is forcing the issue. Biasati forced Byfeld off the track. That's very close. We got 3 Porsches going 3 wide, going into Tornado nearly 3 wide. Byfeld managed to pull ahead there at the last minute. But we've got some awesome Porsche battling here. This is fantastic. I was about to break out my phone's calculator and start doing some math to see if Samarco could actually break into the top 10 by the end of this. But with these drivers battling very hard right towards the tail end of the top 10, he might actually be able to do it, because these drivers are battling really hard, banging each other, and it's just some awesome stuff here. This is some fantastic racing all up and down the field, whether they're running in the top 10, whether they're running in the top 5, or whether they're running outside the top 20. It's just been some brilliant stuff so far.
Biasati and Isaacson have had their fair few battles so far this season. Horeth, I think, back of, which was a particularly strong round for the pair, though. I think they were running in the top 5 for most of the race. Isaacson with some absolutely incredible attempts at overtakes. The enthusiasm, the ambition of the overtakes maybe was ahead of the execution of them. But it was quite good to see around a circuit we'd never visited in Apex Racing League history. And he might be sending another dive here as well. Biasati just about cuts it off. But this is a bit personal from this one, after that battle earlier on in the season back at Jerez. And you can very much see it from their body language. They've lost 2.7 seconds in the past 3/4 of a lap. They're making contact round pretty much a straight, and now they are definitely making contact down a straight. Are either of them going to be able to get it stopped? You can see the absolute dive from the 296 in the background, and there's contact. That was Eric Rosseth, who came in from a mile behind to get in some places, and it's been an awful day already for Sim Race Norway, and that has just added to it.
Just very, very tough there for Sim Racing Norway, but getting back to this battle between Biasati and Isaacson, those two were beating and banging with each other like a pack of heat-off orangutans, because I don't even know how to describe it. Those two drivers probably made contact about 20 times going down that back straightaway, which, considering it isn't really the longest back straightaway in the world, is mightily impressive. Those two were beating and banging with each other. It was like watching a NASCAR race. That was unheard of. So that's just these two drivers battling so hard. The top 10 might not be out of reach for Samarco. He's made up to P15 now, so he's made up about 3 spots, and I just did the math while we were watching that awesome battling there. Samarco would have to be about a second quicker than the driver in the top 10 to try and claw it back, because right now the gap is so big. Right now it's about, looking at it, actually no, I say that, I was expecting it to be about 8 seconds. It's now 4, so just some really, really good laps that Samorko has to put in if he wants to have any hope of getting into the top 10. But with the drivers ahead of him battling as hard as they have been, I don't think the top 10 is entirely out of reach for Samorko just yet.
Yeah, I think as high as top 8 potentially. This one is really heating up though. Here comes Stephen David. What a performance from Stephen David. Brilliant to see. This man who raced in the ASUS Apex Racing League Endurance Championship as well, I believe, for Scuderia Volpi. He is up into 4th place. Meanwhile, Winkler is holding off Meyer. I'm not sure if it's going to be successful though, as the Mercedes drives past the Mercedes grandstand. The Porsche is getting past. He's got his nose ahead. He's got the better exit as well. Is he able to get clear heading into Mobile 1 curve? No, he's not. And it is Winkler for Core Sim Racing who's remaining alongside. He's left his rivals some space though, and Meyer will take that with both hands. He's up to 2nd position is Anders Meyer. It could well be another 2nd position to add to his large collection of runners-up spots. But he could deny that. He could still gain 3.8 seconds in the time remaining in order to get another race victory.
I think that would be a very tall order. He would, I mean, at this point, we're coming up on 20 minutes into this 30-minute heat race, so only 10 minutes left. About a minute and a half lap times. I think we're probably within the last 5 or 6 laps. So I think Meyer would have to put in some killer lap times over Thomas Wangen up ahead to try and close that gap. Right now, he's closing in a little bit. Right now, down to 3.4. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. Right now, we'll keep an eye on this battle with Scarrett and David. Now, David has had a very interesting race. Usually, you don't see a whole lot of him. He usually puts together some very quiet races, but with the reverse grid nature of these two race nights, it's just, oh man, that's very close there. Stephen David, I'm confusing all the drivers. David Vay's behind. Stephen David's in the Lamborghini. I'm getting all my drivers confused. This has been so chaotic and so hectic and just so awesome to watch that I'm confusing all my words.
I've been there for pretty much the whole day, I must say. Byfeldt. No, that's not Byfeldt, it's Crook. There you go, I've done it now. He is trying to go for 10th position, but he can't quite do it. Stuart Wyness. What a performance from Wyness, not just in this race 2, but also race 1. He was started last at the start of the day, and across the 2 races, he's now been able to make up 15 places. Amazing. And he ran outfield at the end of race 1. Vay is round. David Vay, who was taking a huge step to the championship victory in the amateur category, he's made a mistake now, and Stuart Wyness is going to gain another place. So too is Chris Crook, and maybe even De Boyver as well might be able to take advantage. So Marco moves past as well, and David Vay, who was having the race of his life for so long, has unfortunately undone it with a spin at Sachs Curve.
That is just, it's cruel there for David Vay. He started this race from the reverse grid pole, led for first lap, I believe, first 2 laps maybe. We'll get a replay to see what happened, but very unfortunate for David Vay. He's now lost 13 positions in this race. And we were mentioning, oh yeah, just simple spin there. It's really easy for these drivers to over push these cars. It's very easy to make a mistake in a track like this with not a whole lot of asphalt runoff. Definitely there with gravel. It's very easy to have a mistake cost you very badly. Unfortunately for him, it cost him quite dearly there. He might lose another position. Ooh, that was a very intriguing block, I would have to say, there on Biasati as they went into the hairpin. So David Vay loses another position. Now he drops down to P15. And right now he is still in the podium of the AM drivers, but I'm sure he has to be kicking himself after that simple mistake that's going to cost him badly here in the final 10 minutes of the second heat race.
Did we see what happened to Biasati earlier on? I might just be having a short memory, but he was, of course, was battling with Isaacson not too long ago, and now he is down in 14th place. I think we might be able to find out. I mean, this was the only way that this one was going to end, right? So you got Biasati ahead, Isaacson on the outside. Where's the contact going to come here?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Biasati getting out of the corner, and he got the nudge from behind into the wall, and that was pretty much the nicest collision I've ever seen with a wall, I think, around this circuit. He just nicely got nestled back onto circuit, but at the loss of many positions.
I have my feelings about that accident, but I won't say them. That's I'll just leave it at that. Samarco goes for a move there, going into the second corner there on Jeremy de Boiver. Samarco, we were mentioning a few laps ago, Samarco would have a great shot to get into the top 10, and with the chaos that we've seen towards the tail end of the top 10, that's exactly what's happened here. Samarco is about less than a second, about half a second, and one car away from breaking into that top 10, which after that very crucial mistake that cost him dearly, for him to recover and get back into the top 10 is very impressive. I believe it's coming a lot sooner than we expect, as Christopher Crook loses it a little bit coming out of the hairpin, drops it on the curb, gets very sideways, pulls off a very nice save there, but unfortunately for him, that won't save his P10 run as he drops down to P11, and Samarco makes it up to P10. A very good recovery from him.
Yeah, more and more positions gained for Samarco. I think he'll get at least one more. He'll get YNS. Castellozzi, you can see he's a little bit further ahead. Castellozzi, that might be close. Might come down to the last lap. And I think if he can get, well, even in 10th place, I think he'll still outscore Winkler across tonight. It's quite a steep scoring system that we have in this series. And so you do get a good bonus by winning the race. And so, despite the positions on paper maybe being better for Winkler with the point system, I think Samarco may well come out with a larger gap than he came into the round. Marcus Byfeld, who was held up for so long behind Biasazzi, January a start really hindered his progress. He's only 8 seconds off the lead, does demonstrate just how good his pace has been in clean air. He's not in clean air anymore, he's got to get past Stephen David. And I think David isn't going to fight this one too much. He knows that a 6th place would still be a fantastic result for him. And so Byfeld easily moves to the top 5.
Decent race, all things considered, for Marcus Byfeld. Started pretty much in that exact same position, dropped back a little bit earlier. He felt like the Porsche he's driving was fueled with milk in the early stages of this race, considering how slow he was. But now he's clawed back quite nicely. He's kept his car clean, and while others have fallen back and wrecked each other and just being and banging all around, Marcus Byfeld, as we said before, calm as a cucumber as always. He just keeps it on the road, hits his marks everywhere, and it's just fantastic. And that's a fantastic move there from Samarco, who gets by Stuart Wyness, who's had a fantastic race himself. He drops down a position, but still nothing to be upset with Stuart Wyness. Started the race down P20, I believe. Was running P15 in Heat 1, but unfortunately for him, ran out of fuel, and that cost him badly. But still, Stuart Wyness is putting on a fantastic drive. The Track Scotland driver has just been absolutely awesome. If we had to give out a Driver of the Day award, I think Stuart Wyness would probably be my mention.
Yeah, I think so. He's been very good. Unfortunately, we haven't got the other Scots out here of Ethan Bass and Kieran Smart. Otherwise, I'm sure they would be right shoulder to shoulder with him throughout, because those Scottish guys are so evenly matched in every aspect of qualifying into the race. So hopefully we'll see them back before the end of the season. Dominic Engel, his next victim is Jeremy de Boiver. De Boiver in the same place where he started, only Leon, Leo and Simon Moldicley can also claim that. The DBR by McChallenge driver may not be in that position for a whole lot longer, because Engel was fast on that previous lap. Isn't going to be able to overtake into the hairpin, however. He will have to wait for another lap potentially. Here comes Samarco on Castellozzi, and this has come across much quicker than what we thought. Castellozzi, I think, with a mistake, and Samarco's going to go for it at the same place he overtook YNS, and now there's further contact between the two of them. It looked like Samarco would be able to escape that one, but he has been tapped around, and for making up a lot of progress, it's another setback for our championship leader.
Yeah, Samarco, that was just, I don't think that was entirely necessary. You could have waited a little bit farther. That was just, I don't think it was a mistake that cost them. I don't think they have too much damage on their race cars. Certainly damaged egos for Antonio Samarco, who went for a move that was definitely on the riskier end, and in the position that he was in after the fantastic recovery he put on, he probably didn't have to go for that move. Unfortunately, Roberto Castellozzi is just caught up in the crossfire, so that's very tough for those two drivers as they drop down to 14th and 15th. That was strange move from Samarco. All know there must be something in the virtual Hockenheim's air that's bringing out some of the worst in these drivers.
Ekroseth has had an absolute mare. You may have, some eagle-eyed viewers may have seen him spinning round on the exit of the turn 6 hairpin earlier on. Something else has, I think, happened to him as well. So, rubbish day for Riseth, and he's back to the pits, and not soon enough, I think, for him. He'll be wanting to forget about tonight, which had so much promise for him at one point. Dominic Engel is getting past Jeremy De Boiver right now, but it's not successful. De Boiver is doing a very good job at holding him off, and he's not giving up on that now. 10th position. It was 12th position just a few moments ago, but the Samarco incident very much has helped him with that. Now, that's a bit more of a commitment there from Dominic Engel. He is alongside, he's even ahead of his rival, and I think with the better exit here from the right-hander, he will finally be passed, and Christian Biasetti will go with him as well, but he's not going to give up as De Boiver, as he's already demonstrated, and he stays in 11th place.
Some more being and banging, man. The virtual fabricators for these GT3 cars, for these GT3 drivers, are not going to be happy whatsoever. These drivers are just being and banging with each other. There's shreds of carbon fiber all around this track. We probably would have had like 15 cautions if this was a real life race, but thankfully we are in the sim and we are on the last lap now, so I think we might see some more elbows out driving as we approach the checkered flag.
Here comes the move then from Biasetti. He was partially alongside, and now there's a bit of contact on exit as well. You go through turn 3 and 4. 3 and 5 don't really exist. This is turn 5 through the Parabolica. And it's David Vey who's now behind them. Just looking to get back a few points in his face. Still looking good for Vey's championship aspirations, however, tonight with the disaster of a round for Yannick Willems that it has been. I think Biasetti is going to be clear this time. Out in the lead, by the way. The gap is coming down a bit, but not close enough. And Thomas Vangen with a 2.5 advantage. Looks like he's going to deny Anders Meyer his 3rd race victory of the season. And it's going to be Vangen's, I believe, 1st race victory of the season as well. I may have to look back. I think it may have been a race 2 victory actually at Watkins Glen for Vangen. But it's going to be a race victory certainly here at race 2 for Hockenheim. It's a fantastic drive from Vangen from 4th position on the grid to take the spoils. It is a Norwegian 1-2. Meyer finishing in 2nd place. Winkler will aid his championship hopes in 3rd position, once again maximising the result as he's done so many times this season. Alexander Skoret really boosting his championship contention there with a brilliant 4th place over on top of the Pro-Ams. And it'll be Chris Crook who finishes at the top of the AMs, a setback right at the start of race 1. But from that point onwards, the man was on a mission. And a couple of strong results right there as Castellozzi tries to, I imagine, serve a drive-through penalty on the last lap, but that will not work. He will cross the line, but will have a 40-second penalty to serve.
Didn't Schumacher do something very similar to that, the British
He
Grand
did.
Prix many, many moons ago?
And I think it worked on that occasion, but it doesn't work on iRacing, unfortunately.
That's
1998, I want to say. Please correct me, someone.
I might have to do that. I call myself a historian, so I should have known that. Let me, actually, I would look that up.
No,
but my,
19, I
keyboard
want to
is
say
very
it could have been
loud.
1994. We will have a look at that, maybe, when one of us is doing the interviews, and the other will do some Wikipedia searching.
I don't believe it was 1994, actually, because he was driving for Ferrari at the time, wasn't he?
Okay.
I think, didn't he actually? No, it was a stop-and-go penalty that he tried to serve, like, on the last lap. And then he stopped right at his pit box and crossed the line before he actually ended up in the pit. So I'll do the research as you see Alex Bevins doing some very strange stuff there in the runoff area of turn 1.
Well, after tonight, the championships are that much more alive. The pros, it won't change too much, but the pro-ams, it will certainly help Alexander Skuret in the AMs, dare I say, David Vey with one hand on the trophy with the solid points haul that he got. It could have been more, but it'll be enough for him. There is Vangen. 1.1 seconds it was down to, but I think he was kind of cruising by the end, right? He wasn't pushing it too much. He didn't need to, and it is a fantastic victory for the Norwegian driver. Anders Meyer in 2nd place. Then it's Carl Winkler. Alexander Skuret finishing in P4. And by the way, that is Vangen's second race victory of the season. Of course, he was extremely happy when he won at Watkins Glen. I look forward to what his reaction is going to be when we have a chat with him in a few minutes' time. Second race victory of the season for Vangen in race 2s in B formats. Really well done. I forget how far I got through, but there's YNS, 8th place, Cook, Engel, and Biasetti, and the rest of the order you can see for yourself. Let's drag a driver up, and I want to get his raw reaction because last time we dragged him up he was absolutely delighted, and I imagine he's delighted this time. Thomas Vangen, congratulations, your second race win of the season.
Yahoo!
Nothing less than what I was expecting.
That's good, that's good. Yeah, it was a great day for us. Even if we didn't have done any practice, start practice when the session opens today, because we had our national championship as well. Same time as this one, so yep.
Yeah, it seemed like your pace just came to you as the meeting went on. I mean, race 1 seemed pretty sorry for you, and then that race 2, yeah, talk us through it. I mean, it seemed like a decent start for yourself, and then you were just, you know, banging in the lap times really from that point onwards.
Yeah, race 1 we hit the B-felt in the rear in the hairpin, so in the T2. So I just spun, so I tried to get out of the way from the rest of the field and managed to fight back for top 7 in race 1, and we got a good starting position for race 2. From there I was fighting the guys around me in race 1, so I knew almost where the pace was, so I tried to pass them cleanly as possible, fast as possible, to try to get a little bit gap from Anders and Antonio. Unfortunately, Antonio's been in T1, so sorry for him. So yeah, pretty happy for today. Anders show again, amazing pace.
Definitely. Week 13, there's been seemingly a couple of tweaks to the GT3 cars. Does the Porsche feel any different compared to how it did before, or is it just slight performance changes?
From my perspective, I think the Porsche is the car to go on the flat surface, in the flat area, when you start to get a little bit uphill and something like Bathurst or something, the turbo cars will definitely still have an advantage.
Well, it certainly didn't seem to hinder you out here tonight, Thomas. We've got a couple more rounds to go in the championship. I imagine you're feeling a little bit disappointed that the B format races are going now. I mean, 2 wins is quite the achievement.
Of course, I like the heat format, but racecraft is over time, so the more experience you get, you better race driver I think you will get, L or B. So I'm looking forward to the 2 last rounds in the Apex. It's been a great season for us. So our main goal now is to get the core in the team championship, so we can try to celebrate something. But I think they need to have 2 bad races.
Yeah, of course, it's looking fairly possible for you guys. Of course, with Niels getting a decent round and with sort of Dominic Engel struggling a bit tonight, it could still change round in that order. Well, best of luck for that one. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to, Thomas?
Of course, you guys, as always, make a good content and a great league. My teammate, IGL Coatings, for doing a fantastic job on the practice today to get together and make us a setup in offline session as well. And I also like to thank our sponsors, IGL Coatings, Sande Trafikkskole and Elvari. And the whole field has been amazing today. I can't see any big incidents, so yeah, good of all players.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Thomas, and best of luck that you can make it a 3rd race win in the remaining weeks.
Thank you.
Thomas Vangen there, once again, delighted with a race win. Ron, who would you like to have a chat with?
I think the man I would like to have a conversation with is Anders Meyer, who had a very interesting night for sure. Anders, thank you very much for joining us, my friend. How's the race?
Oh, it was fun. Lots of clean battling, a little bit of touching here and there, but nothing that really unsettled anyone. So it's fun when it's like this. So I had a great time tonight. Obviously the The Norwegian Championship on Sundays sets like a limit for me in this league now, since I only get the Mondays to practice. But Hockenheim is a track I've driven a lot, so this is probably one of the easiest ones to adapt to.
I'll tell you one thing about this track that we definitely noticed was there's a lot more overtaking opportunities here. You wouldn't really expect it at a track like this with a lot of high-speed sections, but plenty of overtaking opportunities on this circuit. Which do you think was the one you fancied the most?
It really depends on the car in front. That's what I love about the circuit. It always provides great racing. But it's very tricky as well, because you have to get the speed out of every corner. So if you have a bad the right-hander into the arena for the final sector, if you have a bad exit there, you can go for a dive on the inside on the guy in front, or you can disturb the guy into T2, so you get a run on the straight and then into the hairpin. So it's pretty much, I think, every corner almost is a overtaking opportunity, except for the last 2 corners maybe. But otherwise, I don't have a favorite corner. I just have to take it as how the guy in front does it.
Well, we've got 2 races left to go in this season, I believe, Donington Park and Imola to round this season off. How do you fancy your chances for the rest of the season?
I think Donington will probably not be too good because of the time I have now with every other series I have going on, and especially the Norwegian Championship takes all my time. I'm really hungry for winning that, so I don't know if Donington will be too good, as I think the only proper racing I've been doing there is a pre-qualifying for the Sports Car Open or something. So, but Imola will probably be better, but Donington I think will be difficult for me.
It's always good to manage your priorities, focus on that Norwegian Championship, and I'm sure you hope to seal the deal there. Thank you for joining us, and is there anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
Yeah, I have to give a shout out to the team, Racing Lab Esports, and our main sponsor, Racing Lab that I know, and of course KTM, Winström Motorsports Arena, and Mosa. And a bit of a shout out to Eric this time for providing great liveries, even though he managed to upload the Photoshop file for his own livery, but mine was fine at least. And thanks to you guys.
I'll tell you, that brand new Porsche of yours looks pretty crisp, I would have to say. Thank you very much, Anders, for joining us. Hope to see you for the rest of the season.
Thank you.
That was Anders Meyer there, getting another good haul of points, another 2nd place as well. I think that may be his 5th so far this season. It could even be 6th, honestly. Who else are we going to have a chat with? Let's have a chat. Well, yeah, one more chat we'll fit in with David Vey. I've eventually made up my mind. David, well, congratulations out there. I know it must feel a little bit frustrating right now, but I imagine at least you can feel like you've had a good result tonight.
Yeah, chaotic race, I have to say. It was already starting chaotic because I had some problems with the setup. I didn't find any setup, and I was running the basic iRacing high downforce setup, but I made a mistake and I took down the rear wing to 5 degree, and then I had to set it back for the qualifying to 6 because I saw that everyone is much faster than me, so... And in the end it worked out, but maybe I left some dents in the qualifying because of... I didn't know this setup as well. In the race, in the first race I had a contact with Gordon. I couldn't do anything to avoid that, I feel like, as I'm watching it back, because I didn't expect him to be this slow on the corner exit, and I was braking to try to stop, and I think I couldn't do anything. Maybe the judges will think otherwise, but that's what I can say. I'm happy for the reverse grid pole, and yeah, it was hard to keep all of the fast guys behind.
It sure was. It was certainly a tough battle out there, David, but you did a fantastic job. We are a little bit short on time, so I'll ask you if there's anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I would like to thank to my friends, my family, and thanks to everyone who is supporting me.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for having a chat with us, David, and yeah, best of luck that you can clinch the amateur title this season.
Thank you.
That was David Vey. Maybe we'll have one more chat actually with Alexander Skura. I'll quickly just drag him in. Ron, would you like to ask Alexander a couple of questions in the short amount of time we have remaining?
I think we'll have to make this quick, so I'll have to bring out my auctioneer voice here. Alexander, thank you very much for joining us. How was the race?
Oh, finally. I struggled so... about 2 years I struggled with the GT3. This is... Finally I get a win, even if it's just a pro-am, and it's a double.
Hey, I'll tell you, a win is a win. You gotta take it however they come. So, we saw a lot of chaos throughout this race, a lot of chaos in the midfield. Do you think the nature of this track was kind of the reason for that?
Yeah, it's... the speed scare is kind of inviting to the dive, so a lot of happened there, and I was struggling a lot with the tire temp, so maybe more people did that too. And, it was really understeery.
As a racer myself, I know understeering cars are always a bit of a pain in my rear end for sure. So I'll ask you one last question before I ask you for any shout-outs. How do you fancy your chances for the rest of the season with only 2 races left?
With Eric doing so poorly today, I think I might be in the lead, so my hopes are getting up, I must say.
To take a look at the championship standings, see if you will be able to confirm or deny that in 1 week's time. So thank you very much for joining us, Alexander. Anyone you'd like to give thanks to or shout out?
I need to get a shout out to my team and our sponsors, Eagle and Sande Trafikkskole. And a special thanks to Thomas for helping me a lot.
There you go, Alexander. Thank you very much for joining us. Put together a fantastic race. Hope to see you throughout the rest of the season.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Great to see Alexander so happy with that. Of course, a driver who we've come to get used to watching in Formula 3 cars, in particular on Apex Racing League. But yeah, he's really pleased with his GT3 performance, and so he should be, bringing himself right into championship contention. 3rd place going into tonight's round, but scored a lot of points tonight with a 6th and a 4th overall. Of course, we've just got 2 more rounds of this championship to go. Next week we are going to Donington, and then the season finale of this Apex Racing League GT3 trophy will be held at Imola in a couple of weeks' time. So make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel in order to check out those. And of course, do check out the social media accounts for Apex Racing TV and Apex Racing League on Instagram, Twitter and Facebook. We're posting up extra videos such as the very good reactions from Thomas Bangen back at Watkins Glen when he managed to win that race. Yeah, do tune in for all of that. Big thanks to SDK Gaming, to VRS and to Apex Racing Academy for supporting this championship and supporting us on Apex Racing TV. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Ron Mons and from Samuli Kume, we will say goodbye, and we will see you back in 1 week's time at Donington for the penultimate round of the championship. See you then.